Hi, I'm Hollis. I have a great story to tell you. It's a story of my best friend, my partner Niles, and he's been the focus of my life the past 8 years. I'd waited forever to find the horse of my dreams. He was that super #1 show horse that I had looked for so long. And I just think he's the prettiest horse God ever made. He was injured. In fact, he had 3 career-ending injuries. 17 different people, professionals, told me I should give up. He'd never be sound. I don't know how to define the connection between us. I just feel like I'm a part of him and he's a part of me. And when things are going well, honestly, on course, we have one brain. Niles is really unique. He is a Mecklenburg. They are from what was the former East Germany. There are not a lot of Mecklenburgs in this country. When I saw him in person, I was astounded. He was gigantic. The biggest horse I'd ever sat on. The first time I rode him, I knew he was the one. I was trying not to smile because I didn't want his agent to know that I was liking him a lot. We got in the car. I started down the road. Lauren turned to me and she said, "You are so buying him." I said, "Yeah, I am. I love him." Our partnership was growing. We were both progressing. Our first show season went great. One day, I went to the barn to see Niles. It was a regular Thursday. I went out for my ride, got on and walked around and chit-chatted with my friends who were out there riding with me. And then I asked for the trot, and something felt horribly wrong. I turned to my friends and I asked, "Does he look okay?" And they said, "No, Hollis, stop, get off, he's lame." It was Valentine's Day. And I thought, what a present he gave me. That's kind of crummy. I found out that Niles had hurt his annular ligament and his distal sesamoid ligament. And years later, I found out that he had a fracture, actually, in a vertebrae, and he probably hurt his left hind leg because he was compensating for the injury in his neck. It's a weird injury. We needed to do an ultrasound, and the vet didn't have the ultrasound machine with him that day, but came back pretty quickly with it and confirmed the tear in the annular and in the distal sesamoid. There were a couple different treatment options. After speaking with the head vet at the clinic, I decided that surgery probably made really good sense. And so we elected to do that. The surgery was, in fact, successful. He was starting to come back. This was over the course of a couple of months. and I was feeling pretty good that I was going to get my horse back. And one day I went to the barn and his leg was enormous and he was grade 4 lame. Grade 4 lame. The vet came right out and I said, let's get an MRI so we know exactly what's going on. I remember that vividly. Let's not mess around with this anymore. One day he was fine and the next day he's not. We need to know exactly what's happening with that leg. I didn't know that much about horse injuries, but I knew a suspensory was really bad. I was completely freaked out. Suspensory injuries, whether they're front or hind, are bad. They can be career-ending, no question. Short of a broken leg, a suspensory injury is one of the worst things that can happen to a horse. And a lot of times horses will not come back to work after a suspensory. They won't be sound, or maybe they can't jump as high or run as fast. I was told by so many different people, forget about him ever getting better. Go find a new horse. Most people aren't willing to give up riding for a couple years and miss out on showing and all that. I had the time. This horse is just too special to give up on. So I wanted to bring him back, even if all I could do was stand in his stall and groom him or sit on the fence while he played in turnout. One very, very wise horse person had said to me, Mother Nature is the best veterinarian. And I was so thankful. I have friends in Montana willing to take him in. They have 70 acres fenced. He could romp, he could play, other horses to be with. So with a heavy heart, I sent him to Montana. While that was the worst thing for me, it was the best thing for him. I did go on, I bought another horse. We went to some horse shows. It just wasn't the same. I wasn't really having fun, in fact. And I made the decision to bring him home. And I thought 2 years was enough. Let's see what we have. Let's just see. And I'm glad to have him home with me, even if all I can do is pet him or watch him. If he can't come back, he can't come back. But at least he's going to be someplace where I can lay my eyes on him every day. And my first clue that something might be going positively was from one of the vet techs at the clinic. I sent him to the clinic for 24 hours before he shipped, just to make sure, go over him. It's a long trip and that can be hard on a horse. I wanted to make sure that he was okay to be shipped. And one of the vet techs called me and offered to buy him. So I think that all that running and all the up and down hill work and the really good fresh water were exactly what he needed. His homecoming was just a day of joy. The truck pulled into the driveway. I ran out screaming his name. Everybody in the barn followed me because they'd heard for 2 years. All they'd heard was Niles the Wonder Horse, Niles this, Niles that. They were so sick of hearing about him, they wanted to see if he was in fact as wonderful as I had been saying. I jumped up on the running boards even before the truck pulled to a stop, screaming his name. And when he heard my voice, he started kicking the wall. And I'm like, Niles! And he jumped out of the trailer, like really right into my arms. Even the grooms were crying. It was probably the happiest day of my life. He was sound at the walk. I put him in a stall, let him, kind of chill a little bit. And then because it had been such a long ride, I wanted to turn him out so he could have some time to run and jump and blow off some of that steam. And as he galloped in a dead gallop across the paddock, he certainly looked sound to me. He trotted, an extended trot. He certainly looked sound to me. I called a couple professionals from the barn to come out. Maybe my eye isn't as good as it should be. They agreed. Hollis, he's sound. That is a sound horse. So I decided to start him back and see what we had. If he could come back, great. If he couldn't, I was still okay with it. I had him home and I could see him every day. When he came home, he was different. He had an attitude, he had an opinion. He had never been like that before. He looked exactly the same. He sort of acted the same. But you know, as I got to re-know him, he had changed a little bit. He was sound, but he was wild. And he was used to ruling the herd. He was the dominant horse out there. He was a little reluctant to let me be the dominant one of our herd. I sent him out there a kid, and he came back all grown up. The more I asked of him, the spookier he got. He spooked at everything. In fact, he even started rearing. There were days I was afraid to get on him. I knew I had to do something differently. The horse was sound, but something wasn't right. So we went to a trainer who specializes in the underlying causes for behavior problems. And it was discovered that he had an old fracture near his pole. Once we treated that and became sensitive to his neck issues, he was back to his old former self. I had my horse back. He was sweet, he was sane, and he was sound. But wait, there's more. He had a fractured tooth. The very last molar on the top right-hand side had been fractured, and the dentist said it was a very old fracture. The surgeon really thought it would be best to lay him down to take out the tooth. And at this point, I knew my horse so well, I had to say, no, we're not going to lay him down. He's wild when he gets up. He'll wind up hurting himself, and I'm sorry if it's more inconvenient, but we need to remove the tooth standing up. So there was a bit of a struggle, but because he's so special and I loved him so much, I was willing to stick with it, keep working at it, and now we've got our partnership back. The stories may exist, but I don't know them. I don't know any other horse who's been through so much, overcome so many things. He was injured. In fact, he had 3 career-ending injuries. I was told he was done, I should give up on him, he'd never be sound. I never dreamt this journey would be like this. But we're happy where we are. I have my horse back. That's our story. I hope you'll come out next summer and see us in the show ring. We're really looking forward to it.